In a city torn apart by war, where smoke hides the sky and silence hides danger, an alien girl moves unseen. Or so she believes. But today, a human soldier will look straight at her and see everything she thought she could hide. What happens? Next, we'll pull them into a fight neither of them planned, and one neither may survive. Before we begin, if you love powerful sci-fi stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It helps me keep bringing you these tales every day. Now, let's step into the ruins where one look changes everything. Asterisk asterisk. The sky above the ruined city burned red. Smoke and ash drifted like snow, and the ground shook with distant explosions. The alien fleet had been attacking for days, and now the streets were empty except for shadows and whispers. Kayla moved silently between the broken walls. She was not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, the way moonlight dances on water, and her eyes glowed a soft silver. She belonged to a species gifted with the ability to bend light, turning invisible to the naked eye. At least, that's what she believed. She had been watching the humans fight from the edges of the war. They were loud, unorganized, and reckless. In her mind, they would never notice her. Her people called humans blind warriors. But Kayla was wrong. Somewhere in the rubble, a man was watching her. His name was Daniel Cole, a soldier without an army. The last of his unit had fallen 3 days ago, and now he survived by moving fast and thinking faster. He had learned to notice things, small movements, a flicker of light, a shadow where there shouldn't be one. And today, he noticed her. Through the drifting smoke, his eyes locked onto the faint outline of a figure slipping between ruins. She was moving carefully, too carefully, as if afraid to disturb the silence. The strange shimmer that followed her every step made her impossible to ignore. Daniel raised his rifle, but didn't fire. Whoever she wasn't like the others he had seen. There was something in her movement, not the march of a soldier, not the scramble of a fleeing civilian. Something else. Kayla paused in the ruins of an old marketplace. She could hear the deep, distant rumble of alien war machines rolling through the streets. The war wasn't going well for either side. Both humans and her kind were losing. She didn't know why she was still here. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something else. Her people had told her not to get close to humans. They said humans couldn't be trusted, that they would see her as an enemy the moment she appeared. But as she moved through the smoke, she felt a strange pull. As if someone was following her. She turned quickly. Nothing, but she was wrong. Daniel stepped carefully, using the fallen walls as cover. He had learned the patterns of the alien patrols, and he knew when to move and when to freeze. But now, his focus was on her. The shimmer in the air was faint, like heat waves over a road. And then, for just a second, the shimmer broke. Her face appeared. Daniel froze. She was beautiful in a way that didn't seem real. Hair like strands of shadow. Eyes that glowed faintly, even in the dim light. Skin that looked almost too smooth for this broken world. She was scanning the street, unaware that he could see her. In that instant, Daniel realized something dangerous. She thought she was invisible. Kayla's heart was beating faster. She didn't know why. The air felt heavier. Something about the silence felt wrong. She moved forward again, crossing the open space between 2 buildings. A voice cut through the smoke. "You're not as invisible as you think." Kayla stopped dead. The words came from somewhere ahead, calm but steady, like they belonged to someone who wasn't afraid to be heard. Her mind raced. No one should have been able to see her. No human, no alien, no one. "Show yourself," the voice said again. Her instincts told her to run. But something else, some strange curiosity kept her rooted to the spot. Slowly, she let her invisibility fade, and there he was. Daniel stood in the open, rifle lowered, but ready. His eyes studied her, not with fear, but with the sharp focus of someone who had already made a choice. "You've been following me," Kayla said, her voice quiet but edged. "Or maybe," Daniel replied, "you've been following me." The moment stretched between them. Around them, the war continued, distant explosions, the echo of alien engines. But here, in this ruined street, time felt different. Kayla narrowed her eyes. "Humans aren't supposed to see me." Daniel took a step closer. "Then maybe I'm not like other humans." Somewhere in the distance, a heavy mechanical roar shook the ground. Alien war machines were drawing closer. Daniel glanced toward the sound, then back at her. "You can stay here and be found," he said, "or you can come with me." Kayla hesitated. Her people had warned her about this, about the moment when a human would offer something that sounded like safety but could be a trap. And yet, she could see in his eyes that he wasn't lying. Without answering, she stepped forward. Daniel turned and started moving through the ruins, and Kayla followed. She didn't know why. She didn't know where this would lead. But for the first time since the war began, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The mechanical roar grew louder, echoing off the shattered walls like a storm trapped in the city's bones. Daniel pulled Kayla into the shadow of a collapsed tower, pressing his back against the cracked concrete. Above them, the alien war machines. Massive frame blotted out what little light filtered through the smoke. Its armored body was covered in scorch marks from battles past, but its sensors still glowed with a cold, predatory light. Kayla had seen machines like this before she called them stalkers. They were built to find anything that moved, anything alive, human, alien, or otherwise. Her breath slowed as she shifted her body, making herself vanish again. The shimmer wrapped around her skin, and she was gone. But Daniel didn't disappear. The stalker's head tilted, scanning. Its sensor beam swept across the street, passing over the rubble, over the air where Kayla stood hidden, and stopping on the one figure who remained visible, the human soldier. Daniel's eyes locked on the glowing red sensor. He could feel it, scanning him, measuring him, deciding whether to kill. His finger hovered over the rifle's trigger, but he knew one shot would give away Kayla's position. Two dot in the shimmer beside him. Kayla's voice whispered, "They can smell heat. Your body temperature. It's too high." He glanced toward the building across the street, a narrow alley leading deeper into the ruins. If they could make it there, they might break the stalker's line of sight. But one wrong step would bring a rain of plasma fire. "On my signal," Daniel said quietly. Kayla hesitated. She wasn't used to taking orders from a human. But the calm in his voice was hard to ignore. Daniel suddenly turned and sprinted into the open. The stalker roared, metal limbs slamming into the street as it gave chase. Plasma bolts tore into the ground behind him, sending shards of stone into the air. Kayla's instincts screamed at her to run the other way. Yet she followed, her invisible form weaving between the blasts, her heart pounding in a rhythm she didn't understand. They dove into the alley, the stalker's bulk too wide to follow. But it didn't stop. Instead, its arms split into 4 segmented limbs, gripping the walls as it began to crawl in after them, its glowing sensors cutting through the shadows. Daniel slammed his shoulder into a rusted door. It gave way, and they stumbled into darkness. Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil. Long-forgotten machines lay scattered, their gears rusted into silence. Daniel pushed a shelf against the door, his chest heaving. Kayla appeared beside him, her shimmer fading. She looked at him, eyes sharp. "You're reckless." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Maybe, but you're alive." Outside, the stalkers. Metal claws scraped against the walls, a sound that promised it wasn't going away. Kayla's gaze shifted toward the far end of the room, where a faint blue light glowed. "That is not one of your machines." Daniel turned. In the corner, half buried under debris, sat a strange alien device pulsing with a slow heartbeat of light. And just as they stepped closer, the stalker outside stopped moving. The silence was worse than the noise. It meant the machine was waiting, listening. The roof above them split with a sound like tearing metal. Dust and fragments rained down, forcing Daniel and Kayla to cover their faces. Then, through the collapsing ceiling, a massive shape descended, its shadow swallowing what little light was left in the ruined building. Kayla stepped back instinctively, her invisibility flickering on and off as her heart pounded. This was not a stalker. The armor was darker, heavier, and layered with strange symbols carved into its plating. Energy pulsed along its joints, each movement accompanied by a low, mechanical growl. Daniel's first thought was that it looked like some kind of executioner built for the sole purpose of hunting something and not stopping until the target was dead. His second thought was that whatever it was hunting, it had already found them. The alien device in the corner pulsed faster, its light intensifying like a heartbeat in panic. Kayla's eyes locked onto it. "That's what it's here for," she whispered. The machine's head rotated toward her voice. Daniel didn't think he moved. He grabbed the device, ignoring the searing heat that burned his palms, and dove behind a fallen beam. Plasma fire ripped through the space he had been standing in a second earlier, turning the wall into molten rubble. "Daniel!" Kayla's voice was sharp, almost angry. "You don't know what you're holding. Then maybe you should tell me," he shouted back, ducking as another blast carved a hole through the floor. The creature advanced, its heavy steps shaking the ground. Daniel could see his reflection in its visor, small, fragile, but defiant. Kayla's shimmer faded as she reappeared fully, stepping between him and the executioner. "It's a beacon," she said quietly. "If it's activated, it will call an entire fleet." Daniel blinked. "Fleet of what?" Her answer was one word, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken warnings. "Predators." The executioner lunged. Daniel shoved Kayla aside, rolling across the debris. The device in his hands began to hum in sync with the aliens' movements, as if drawn toward it. Sparks of blue light jumped between them. Then, without warning, the alien stopped mid-attack. Its head turned sharply toward the shattered roof above, as if sensing something else. Kael, a single quote's S expression, shifted confusion. Then dread. "Something's coming. And it's not mine." The roar rolled through the ruins like thunder trapped underground. Daniel felt it in his chest, deep and heavy, as if the city itself were growling. Dust trickled from the fractured ceiling, and the alien executioner froze in place, its glowing armor dimming to a cautious flicker. Kayla's silver eyes darted to the floor. Thin cracks spread outward from the center of the room, glowing faintly with a dull golden light. "It's waking up," she said, her voice tight. Daniel kept the alien device clutched in his hands. "What is?" Kayla didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a slow step back, her gaze fixed on the ground as the cracks widened. "Something my people buried here a long time ago. Something that was never supposed to wake." The golden glow grew brighter until it spilled through the entire floor, casting the broken walls in eerie light. The executioner, now ignoring them entirely, aimed its sensors at the glowing cracks as if scanning for a threat. A deep vibration rattled through the building. Then, with a violent shudder, the ground split open. From the darkness below, a massive claw emerged, ancient, metallic, and covered in strange etchings that pulsed with the same golden light. It slammed into the floor, anchoring itself. Another claw followed, then a long, segmented limb like the spine of some forgotten machine-beast. Daniel stumbled backward, his grip tightening on the beacon. "Tell me that's not part of your fleet." "It's not," Kayla said, her voice trembling. "It's older, and it doesn't serve anyone." The executioner took a step forward, weapons charging. But before it could fire, the claw shot out faster than thought, grabbing the armored hunter and dragging it toward the glowing chasm. The alien machine struggled, its weapons firing wildly, but the ancient claws pulled harder, and with one final metallic scream, the executioner vanished into the darkness below. The golden light dimmed for a heartbeat, then flared brighter as if whatever was beneath the city had now fully awoken. Kayla turned sharply toward Daniel. "If you're still holding that beacon, you've just told it where we are." The rumble grew into a deep rolling growl that seemed to come from the very bones of the city. Daniel's knuckles whitened around the alien beacon, its glow now pulsing faster, almost frantic. The heat from it was intense, like holding a piece of the sun. Kayla's gaze never left the device. "You don't understand what you've done. That signal, it's not just a call. It's a challenge." Daniel frowned. "To who?" "To anything that thinks it's strong enough to answer." A sharp electric crack split the air above them. Through the fractured roof, streaks of light tore across the sky, several fast-moving shapes, burning through the atmosphere like meteors. The sound was deafening, a mix of wind screaming past metal and the distant roar of engines far more advanced than anything Daniel had seen before. "They're here," Kayla whispered, but as the shapes descended, Daniel realized with a sinking feeling that they weren't coming alone. Behind them, vast shadows moved in the smoke, massive, serpentine forms that twisted through the air like predators swimming through dark water. Their eyes glowed faint gold, the same color as the ancient machine beneath the city. The ground shook again, and with a sudden burst of force, the claw from below slammed upward through the floor, missing Daniel by inches. The impact knocked him backward, the beacon tumbling from his hands and skidding across the room. Kayla lunged for it, but before her fingers touched the surface, the largest shadow from the sky smashed into the street outside, the shockwave ripping the rest of the roof away. Daniel scrambled to his feet, the dust stinging his eyes. Through the smoke, the massive figure came into view, an armored beast, part machine and part living thing, its body a fusion of black metal plates and scarred, leathery flesh. Its breathing was slow, deliberate, and far too intelligent. It turned its head toward the beacon, and every golden light along its body flared in unison. Kayla froze. "If it takes that, nothing in this city survives." Daniel looked at her, his chest still heaving from the fall. "Then we make sure it doesn't take it." She stared at him like he'd just declared war on the impossible. But before she could reply, the creature's eyes locked on Daniel instead, and it stepped forward. The ground quaked violently as the two colossal beings faced each other, their massive frames filling what was left of the street. The ancient clawed guardian from beneath the city stood rigid, golden light pouring from the etchings in its armor-like shell. Across from it, the skyborn predator bristled, its black metal plates shifting as if alive, each movement producing a low, metallic growl. Daniel and Kayla were caught in the middle, the alien beacon lying on the cracked ground between them, pulsing faster with every passing second. "Move!" Kayla hissed. Daniel didn't. His eyes were locked on the beacon. "If we run, one of them gets it." The Golden Guardian made the first move, its claw slamming down in front of Daniel, blocking the predator's advance. The impact shook the air, scattering debris in every direction. The predator responded with a deafening roar, its chest splitting open to reveal a pulsating core of molten light. Kayla's hand grabbed Daniel's arm. "If that core fires, nothing left standing here will survive." Daniel glanced at her, then back at the beacon. "Then we give it to neither of them." Before Kayla could stop him, Daniel dove forward, snatching the beacon from the rubble. The heat was unbearable now, searing through his gloves, but he didn't stop. With a desperate shout, he hurled it into the crumbling remains of a nearby tower. The beacon smashed through the wall, tumbling into the darkness inside. Both titans roared at once. The predator lunged toward the tower, but the Golden Guardian struck first, its claw closing around the beast's throat and yanking it backward. The two monsters crashed into the street, their massive bodies tearing through buildings as they fought. Kayla grabbed Daniel's hand, pulling him toward the narrow alley at the edge of the ruins. They ran without looking back, the sounds of the Titans' battle shaking the ground beneath their feet. When they finally stopped, the city's skyline was lit with flashes of gold and molten red. The air smelled of burning metal and ozone. The tower where the beacon had fallen collapsed in on itself, burying whatever remained of it deep beneath the rubble. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Think they'll stop now? Kayla shook her head, her silver eyes fixed on the distant flashes. No, that was only a piece of what they want. The war is bigger than you know. Daniel met her gaze. Then maybe you should start telling me about it. For the first time since they'd met, Kayla smiled just barely. Maybe I will. They turned and began walking into the smoke-covered horizon. Behind them, the roars of the Titans faded into the distance. But not enough to hide the truth. Something had seen them. Something else was coming.